What's happening, everyone? Hope you're all doing okay. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us today for our critical listening session with Sam Drumlo. Today, it's going to be Sam and I, and you guys know the drill now with these critical listening sessions and what goes on here. You know, throughout, it's been a little while since we had the Friendly Fade series and been going through and doing all that, which was awesome. And, just big congratulations to our winner, Filth Spectre, as well as everyone else who participated in that. It was huge, and I think you all loved it just as much as we did. So in that break, I hope you guys were able to put some of Sam's techniques to use. I know I did, especially working on the next upcoming Beatcast Volume 2 compilation cassette that's going to be coming out soon. See, I'm getting those little, segues just like Al does. I'm learning from the best here. So, and then just wanted to get a few of these housekeeping things out of the way before I bring on Sam. I just want to give a shout out to all of our, remember, go to our patreon.com /the Beatcast. And let me bring this up. Since I'm doing all this stuff for Al, I'm a little slower than he is doing all of these. So the patreon.com /the Beatcast, where you can find all of our sample packs and you get lots of cool stuff there. And I just want to also give a shout out for the people who are a part of that, our supporters. So Beat Smith Medor, Messy Goods, T-Greed, Disgraceland, RC Peters, Pablo Station, Mark Chai, Little Treasures, Phil Spector, Ant Architecture, All Yuan Kenobi, Zilla Beats, Press Rewind, Who Is This, Q No Rap Name, Jay Linga, Equality 725, One Bar Llama, Squeak Boogie, Nate Gems, Noctimus Prime, I'm going to let these go. And Vexo, our newest subscriber. Thanks again, all of you, for joining us on Patreon and supporting us. So we really appreciate that. And I hope you guys are all submitted your beats today for this upcoming show next week, where we go over all of your submissions. And with all of that being said, let's now... nope, not yet. Let's give a little shout out to our sponsors here.
The Beatcast is brought to you in part by Mixwell Worldwide, the turntable and lifestyle brand going strong since 1997. Patreon. Our patrons directly support the Beatcast. Choose a tier that works best for you and receive items like merch, exclusive sample packs, as well as a direct shout out in our live shows. Patreon.com /the Beatcast. Picking up some new equipment. A portion of anything you purchase through our Zounds affiliate link, located on our website at thebeatcast.com, will directly go to support the Beatcast project.
All right. Now, without further ado, we're going to bring on the man, the myth, the legend, Sam Drumlo.
All right. What's going on?
You like how I lengthened that out? I saw that you were away from your chair. I was like, oh, shit, he's not there yet after I started announcing him.
Yeah, no worries. I was kind of feeling a little hot, and I had the AC turned way too high, or way too hot. So
yeah. No, it's getting that time of year. You're out there in Florida, so I can imagine it's where you guys around.
Did you hear that
right
about?
Now?
Yeah, low 80s. Did you hear about the torrential rains in Fort Lauderdale, where I'm from?
No, I missed that. What's going on
man,
there?
It was like 1 in 1,000 years rain. It flooded a lot of the city up to 6 to 7 feet.
Oh, damn.
Yeah,
That's crazy. I can't imagine.
Yeah, my car was really high up on a driveway, and it was 3 feet underwater still. Really high up on a driveway. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I mean, we get our monsoons here in the summer, which the rain can get pretty bad, but I mean, never like that. I've never seen a flood like that. I mean, I've seen sometimes trash cans go down the street, but nothing more than like maybe 6 inches or so of water.
Yeah, it was nuts
out here. But yeah, but those storms can get pretty crazy here. But I can't imagine, because I lived in New Orleans for a while, and some of those, storms, we would get some of those tropical storms too. And man, that stuff is wild. Can't believe it. So cool. How have you been? And I know we had to take a little bit of a break here for the friendly fade and all that. And how have you been? What's been going on with your life? Working on some projects?
Yeah, got lots going on. First of all, shout out to Phil Spector for taking that friendly fade down. That was awesome, man. I was so psyched for him. He's a homie, so it's good to see. Sick tracks out there. But yeah, just dropped a tape on Friday called Four Kings. It's a collab tape, instrumental tape with a friend of mine,
Awesome.
Track Slayer. Yeah, man.
Awesome.
And that was chop it up, check it out.
Perfect. And where can they find that one? And do you have that on your IG? The link for that up there?
Yes, sir. It's everywhere. It's on IG. You can check it out on Spotify, Bandcamp if you want to support monetarily, or if you want to just listen, Spotify, SoundCloud, just every other Apple Music, all the platforms. It's everywhere.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's funny, you were talking about Phil Spector earlier. He was one of the guys when I was talking to during the friendly fades and everything, and he's like, yeah, man, how tell me how much he learned from you and what he's been applying everything to his tracks. So he's a big fan.
He's a good dude. We actually had a phone call. I don't know. I want to say the week of after I had our last episode, and he was we're just kind of exchanging notes and whatnot. He's such a cool guy. You definitely want to help guys out like that. So we hung out for a bit, and I was just kind of sharing a couple tips and whatnot of the little stuff I think I know. But yeah, he's a good sport, but he's very talented.
Yeah, no, like I reached out to you too. I mean, you remember because I'm working on this compilation tape, doing the mixes and the masters for that. So yeah, there was a couple things that I was like, hey, I'm stuck. Do you got the time for me? And thank you again for taking the time to work with me on a few of those and getting me through a couple things, because it's been a while since I've had to work on a project like that, especially, as you know, it's kind of tough when you're working. There was, I think, 34 submissions, so that's 34 different artists, 34 different sounds and mix styles, and everyone's in it goes from people who are experts at mixing. Like, getting yours was easy. I didn't have to do much in yours. There's a few people, but then some people who they're still new, and because a lot of the people that we're working with the comp tape, they don't have any releases, so it's kind of a new thing to them. So working on that scale of type of tracks coming in, it was a lot easier with the information that I'd learned from you. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah. Let me ask you something, just exchanging notes here, because I've never put out my own instrumental album. I've always done collabs, and I'm working on a few. I mean, I'm always working on music, but I've made it a point to collaborate a lot, to learn from others and whatnot. Do you feel like going through all those tracks and working with other artists like that is helping you in your own music? Like, have you learned a lot?
Yeah, because that's one of the biggest things I've noticed, whereas like I'd be like, man, the kick is really standing out, and it's perfectly where it needs to be in the mix on this. So it's like how I would think when I was working on a couple beats after that, it's like, okay, I was focusing on different things like that, or certain bass lines and certain frequencies. It's you start thinking about the final mix as you're producing, and it's kind of cool, and the way everyone else is doing things. So it's
a lot of what I've learned has been, I'm sorry to hijack your thought, has been exactly like that. Been if you look back at my discography so far, I think I put out 5 beat tapes in the last few months, and it's all collabs. Sorry, my mic's tripping. It's all collabs, and I've learned a lot is just through listening to others and seeing what works and also what doesn't work, to be fair. Not to be critical, but of some of my peers, but just like, people sending me some tracks, I'm like, that's not working,
Yeah, your mic cut out a little bit there. Your mic's cutting out.
Sorry. Okay, gotcha. Now we're good. Speaking of Phil Spector, so we're putting out a tape, and he's on the tape. It's not just him and I. It's like a group. It's called Cartel Tapes 2. I think it's scheduled for 2 or 3 weeks from now. I don't know. I'll give you a final date later. And so he sent out in a track, and I listened to it months ago when he first submitted it. And not to go on a tangent, but just to that point. And I listened to the track, and when I first listened to it, I was like, "What the hell, Phil? Like this, like this mix is wonky. Like it's weird." And then later on, I've learned a bunch of things since then. I think he submitted like 5 months ago, right? And finally, I'm getting together to compiling like 10 or 12 beats or whatever. And now I know things I didn't know before, right? Yeah. And then I go to master it, and it was it's one of my favorite tracks now. And I went to master it, and now I like, oh, that's what he was doing. Awesome. You know, like kind of learning something new. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. It was definitely, it was definitely cool. And then now the fun part is happening now where I put the track order together, and, me, Al, and Bree, we're all listening to it, getting ideas. And if anything needs to change in that track order, which can be, I mean, it's tough when it's just one single artist. It's your music. That's already tough. But when you're working with, so many tracks, it's like, oh man, how to find that perfect order. But it's been fun doing all that, and it's been fun listening to it as a full side A, side B, and listening to it in the car. And one thing I gotta say is, man, we got some damn good producers. Like everything is just
cool.
I'll just be completely honest. I was expecting some tracks where I'm like, okay, but no, like everything literally, it was like, fuck, man, like everything is just good, like, and it just all flows together. The Beat Hawk community, shout out to you all. You guys are nice, talented mofos.
Cool.
Well, cool. All right, let's see, am I missing anything here as far as some housekeeping stuff? No, I think we're good. If you want to run into some of these tracks, unless you got anything else to talk about. And real quick, Messi, he's popped in the message. He goes, yeah, he's learned a lot from these sessions too. And I know Messi, he's already someone who knows a lot as far as recording, engineering, and mixing. So I was the same way, where it's like I thought I knew a lot, but no. And then I get pissed off because I was like, I've been doing this for so damn long, and then you come along, you're just kind of into it, and you're blowing us out of the water, man.
Nah, man, not at all. I feel you, but I feel the same way with other people. I have this buddy of mine, Das Chill. Das Chill's been making music for 13 months now, because he told me his anniversary was last month. Yeah. If I show you some of this guy's tracks, he's not a kid, he's a man. If I show you this man's tracks, you're gonna be like, that guy's not been doing this for a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, there's just always somebody out there that just, knows something that maybe you're not there just yet. So it's all good, man.
Yeah.
So we're here together. But let's get to it.
Awesome. Here. And then just to let everyone know, I'm probably going to mute during a lot of this just because of some audio things going on, but we'll get that taken care of here soon. So if you don't hear me commenting, it's not because I don't want to comment, but
cool.
Because I'm going to let the expert speak. So here we go. I'll bring in your stuff here, your stream. There we go.
All right. Sweet. So I'm going to do something just slightly different today, and it's that I'm going to play the full tracks all the way through, and then I'm going to give some feedback on both the mixing and mastering, and as well as just the general, the general composition of the track or whatnot. Okay, some of you guys may have not been expecting that, but it's just more, take it as extra bonus feedback. Cool. All right, so we're going to go with Alan first. He submitted this. I don't think it has a name on it, but Alan from the Beatcast, so check it out. Oh, sorry. Got to turn the volume on. Oh my God. I get so excited.
Okay, so really quick, that one there, that's Al's submission for his comp, for the compilation. And he said it to me, and I was like, man, I think this is the best track you've ever done.
It's so good.
It's good, right?
It's so good. As soon as like I got it, like the beginning, and then like it drops into like on the 6th bar, 8th bar, and I'm like, oh, like it just hurt my gut right away of how good it was. Like the
that guitar too. It's just like it's just a really cool,
it's so good
track. I love it. Cool. All right, I'm gonna bring the audio back up, so I'll let you get to work, man.
No, it's okay. It's so good. Well, let me make a couple comments. I'm not gonna play it just yet. Okay. So first of all, I do like how from a composition standpoint, he just keeps that tension building and building and building with the chords that are being played or the section he sampled, whatnot. Only thing that stands out to me before I get into like the nitty gritty of mix and master in terms of just the components of the sauce, if you will, is I'm not a fan of the snare personally. Just not a fan of the snare. I almost want to add to the vibe. I almost want something with a long, far away. And I've talked about space, right? Creating space. This like far away, almost echoey. What's it called? Reverb. You know, like a long like snare or like long, whatever
with a big tail on it.
Yeah, but that's more of a tasting, Alan. But just that's one thing that stood out before I get into like the nitty gritty details. What do you think?
Cool. That's funny. I haven't thought about it. When you go through it, I'll have to listen again. But no, it all fell together for me. Yeah. I thought it was great, but I'm gonna have to listen to that now.
Yeah, no worries. All right, so let's get to it. I'm gonna do a couple things here to what I'm gonna loop it and just do a few things and just think through it. Okay.
Yeah, really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to remind you to unmute it. Sorry.
Cool, no worries. Thank you. All right. So first of all, loudness. I was tracking the loudness, and let me turn it on again. Right. Cool. So Alan's doing a good job here of first of all of not letting things go above about 1 decibel true peak. So in terms of this master, if this is this is the master. So you definitely want to be between -0.5 to -1 dB true peak, meaning you don't want the peaks to go above 0, and then that causes distortion and just digital crud, if you will. Okay, so that's good in terms of levels. I'd want it a little louder. So what I'm thinking for this one, I'm going to do a few tricks that are a little bit beyond what maybe I showed you guys last time. First of all, I'm going to add, I have very little headspace. I'm not going to remaster this track, but I'm going to see what I can do with a soft clipper. So there is a free soft clipper. Let me go to it. Free clip? Yeah, free clip. So I show you guys a lot of free things, so no one can have an excuse that that they can't that they don't have access to the stuff that we're showing here. So with free clip, you want to, let's see. Okay, cool. So now I'm clipping a little bit, and I'm gonna go to -3. Hold on. -3. So let's try to go to -3 real quick. Hold on. Let me. Okay. Yeah, so that the snare is hitting a little rough. So I wanted to clip a little bit of it in the clipper here. You're gonna see it slices some of those peaks that are coming really sharp to my ear, and they're not gonna sound very good when you translate them to speakers. If you leave it hanging like that. So let's see. So maybe you can see it really small, but that snare, and I'm going to just kind of just talk about it one more time. The transient of the snare, usually, I mean, this is just anecdotally, but like you don't want the transient of the snare to be so peaky that it goes above like what your kick or your drums, like your not drums, your bass would be. So just something to watch out for. I get a lot of tracks like people sending me tracks like this that usually the snare's really loud because we want banging drums, but you want to be able to tuck it in there. So we clipped it by 3 dB, and then now let's see what we can do with let's try a compressor on it. I don't want to cheat and use something crazy, but let's just stick to stock plugins for today. So we'll do an EQ8. Well, actually for the EQ, I'm going to use, let's use Pro Q3. Well, all right. I'm going to show you guys a little sauce, actually. Let's go with a clipper, and then we'll go with Pro MB. So Pro MB is a multi-band compressor, which you want to use in instances like this, really broad strokes, if you will. And I'm going to go to a setting that I already know. I already know the setting. Hold on. Mastering, yeah. And it's, no, actually not mastering. Mix bus. Yeah, here we go. Smooth bass and smooth highs. All right, and what it does, it just kind of compresses the lows, and it just expands, well, it bumps the highs a little bit with a little bit of compression, so you just don't get sharp sounds in your ear. Okay, so we control just a little bit, a few of the things that are happening in the track. And then if I go back to my True Peak Max, just those two little things I just did not make the track a lot louder or did not make the track a lot quieter, but it took those peaks down a little bit. So now guess what? I can get more loudness out of the track, if that makes sense. So. So a lot of mixing and mastering is all about taming the transient. So I'm just going to do one more thing here, and then we'll get the loudness back up. Let's do an EQ8. So where's the EQ8? Ableton plugins, EQ8. Cool. I'm not going to do Pro Q3 because many of you guys may not have Pro Q3. So I'm just going to stick to stock plugins. Cool. So. Cool. So lots of stuff happening in the low end. You guys know already. I cut that stuff out below like 20 to 30 hertz. All right. I like that. I'm going to cut, usually, this is my own personal taste, about 14 to 16,000. All right, cool. So we're almost there. Let's see if we can do a little mid-side trick, right? So mid-side trick. So let's see what's going on the sides. All right, so I'm gonna see if I take off some of the bass on the sides. This yellow band is the sides. Yeah, that's gonna be a little bit more. A little bit better. So what I'm doing here is, and it's a fine line, right? So you don't want to take away with a mid-side or MS EQ, you don't want to take away all the lows, because then the track will feel very narrow, but you want to have like a good balance, and you got to kind of tinker with it. I just happen to know, because I do this like the mid-side EQing a lot, but you know, you kind of want to like tinker around and see where, like how much lows to leave on the sides. It can sound real buttery, like real nice to have a really wide bass, and that's nice, but then you'll lose energy. So you want to kind of have like a happy medium, and it's just a personal taste thing. So yeah, so I'm gonna just like be chill about it and only take out below 88, but it's a soft curve too, so I'm not just like harshly taking out the bass. All right, and then let's see a scan for frequencies that we like. So we don't know. Woo. Okay, cool. Okay, so that's cool. So I bumped a little bit, around 1200, maybe 1200 on the sides. Now let's see what we do in the mids, like the middle, or the stereo signal, or the mono signal. Cool. All right, and one thing I've been doing a lot lately, guys, this is the last thing I'm going to do, and then just bump the track up, is I've been scanning for muddiness around like 200, like 150 to 300, and lately my ears have been getting trained a little bit more to find that muddiness, so I'm going to scan for that and try to take out just like a dB or two. Okay, cool. I got to give it to Alan. He did a really good job at mixing this because I'm making very subtle changes here and it's sounding good. All right, let's go with the limiter really quickly, and that's going to be it. Let's just get that. Well, for the limiter, I'm just going to use Pro L because this is, I don't want to use Ableton. Limiter is pretty bad. Where is it? Safe, final few dB. So this is a Dash Chill gave me this limiter, or this limiter setting, and it works wonders. All right, so negative 0.5. All right, let's see it. Okay, cool. So really quickly, let's just hear the before and after, and then we'll bring RTC back in. So before, sounds good. Right? That's before. That's before. That's after. Okay, cool. It's really subtle. If you're listening to on headphones, you may hear a little bit of the subtlety that I added. I did add some little bit more volume. If I wanted to drive the volume, though, I could now. It's a little bit safer track because there was some stuff that was there peaking before, and now that snare is a little bit more subdued. But yeah, RTC, come on back. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, man. Because the track didn't need too much, but what the little that you did add made a huge difference. And they're just those little subtleties. And then I like how you were talking about 200 dB. You're checking out for the muddiness. Yeah. That's kind of where like the kick and the bass are kind of colliding there. In that frequency. Yeah. And real quick, I just want to give a shout out to the anonymous gifter gifting out some subs. Thank you for that.
That's really cool.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, Al. Yeah, the track is just dope. Anyways, and then just that little sauce really put it over the edge.
No, and I think Al did a good job. Like it's one of those things that I'm sure another engineer could make it a little bit better and somebody else a little bit better. So in reality, it's like, where do you stop? I think his track was already good enough. The only thing I was like on a mission for was, let me just chill that snare out just a little bit, because I know what it's going to sound like when I do put it in headphones, like regular headphones or in the car, and it's not going to sound as good as it could. And I think this kind of accomplished that. And it brought out some of those mids just a tiny bit more.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, it's probably, I'm sure it's kind of hard to not, because you can easily do too much, so you got to kind of pull yourself back sometimes.
Right. But I got to give him a lot. The mix is spot on. So that was a true me playing mastering engineer, if you will, of just using compression, limiting, and EQ. Those are the three things that a good mastering engineer should just be like make wonders or work wonders with. And so that means his mix was really good. I didn't have to do any repairing. I didn't have to do much. It was just like little subtle things that would just make it stand out. But now I could really drive that sound to be way louder now that we caught the peaks. Just a quick aside, one of the number one problems for most of us producers, especially in hip hop, is peaks. Like you get all these crazy peaks and like they sound good in nice headphones, but when you go out to the car or you put it on your phone, like it doesn't sound as good, right? So
exactly. And then reminder, most of these he's using are stock plugins or free plugins. I think that was the first time we saw the free clip. We got the link up there for you on that one for the soft clipper. So explain again, what exactly is that doing?
Oh man, that's a great question. So soft clipping, what it's doing, it's if you see I'm changing here and that little red line, when a signal comes in, so like a spike, right, like a kick or a snare comes in, it's going to shave and kind of softly clip the signal. And what it does, and there's different ways of doing it, but essentially let's just give a general explanation that it's doing it with some subtle, very light distortion, but good distortion. So it gives it like nice harmonic distortion. So for example, when you hear like a nice kick that's like the kick hits, but it's not really sharp to your ear, but it knocks, but it feels like it doesn't come through to where it pierces your ears, but it knocks and you feel it. It's because they've made it really loud and they ram it through a soft clipper. They make the soft clipper kind of shave those rough edges out. So it's almost like a limiter, but think of a soft limiter. A hard limiter is literally beyond this line, nothing goes through, and so it sometimes can cause like weird, it can be unpleasant.
Gotcha. So is this something that obviously you're using on the stereo mix, but this would be used a lot within individual tracks as well?
So I would advise people to play around with this soft clipper in their drum bus. So like when you have all the drums playing, add one of these. Or you can add a saturator. So a saturator will kind of accomplish a similar thing where it like squishes the sound a little bit and it just makes it not duller because it hits harder, but it doesn't hit as sharp. Gotcha. So if you want that knocking kick, like a knowledge type of kick or whatever, you want a soft clip. And then also at the end of the track, right before the limiter, you definitely want a soft clipper.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Is this similar? So what is something we just talked about Al's track? Al came on and was telling me about a conversation you guys had. You asked him if he was using Transient Master in Machine.
Yeah.
So what exactly is Transient Master? Or no, is it Transient or Transient?
Yeah, Transient Master.
Transient Master. Okay.
So Transient Master, what it does is essentially it's another tool, right? Because a clipper is a very traditional tool. There's like old analog clippers, right? A Transient Master is something relatively new from my understanding. I mean, it's more of a digital thing. And what it does is it takes the transients and it will either sharpen them because maybe they're too dull, or it will dull them out and make things sound, I don't know how to explain it. I'm horrible explaining this, but it almost prolongs the transient. So the transient won't be as sharp. It won't be like cluck. It will be like cluck. And it just takes time for that same transient to like play out. And so what happens with Transient Master is, so those of you guys who go like, man, I love sampling old drums. Sampling old drums is awesome, but it's not easy. You have to know how to shape the drums. That's why we buy kits, right? Like kits that are made by professional engineers and producers that take those drum grooves from the 70s, 80s, 70s, 60s, and then they apply all these effects to it. And so a Transient Master, you're sharpening the transient so they knock harder. That's the short answer.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. I'll let you move on now.
Cool.
Got my questions out of the way.
I love answering the questions. It's the stuff we all want to know. All right, cool. Let's listen to Funk Soul, I think is his name. I'm so sorry. Funk Soul. Okay, check it out. Oh,
you got to unmute your audio there.
oh, my bad. Thank you. All right. So let's talk about the good and talk about the not so good in terms of mixing and mastering. So go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's a dope track. I like the track. You could tell they're going for a little bit more of a lo-fi sound, and I'm curious what you're gonna do because that's gonna be that'll be kind of hard to work with too, as far as not that it's not mixed well, but that the artist has their certain vision for the sound they want out of it. So how, as a mastering engineer, do you kind of take that and do what you need to do without you know completely taking apart what they wanted, what they envisioned for their track?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, obviously there's conversations that happen with artists usually, and just to understand what they want. But I always think of objectively speaking, like what's sounding really good in this track that I like personally, and what isn't. So one thing that I love is the drums. Like I love the knocking of this was done like whether it's the drum sample is already good or the drum was mixed really well, whichever it was. But the knocking hard hitting kick is amazing. The mids or like the stuff kind of in the background, it's okay that it's in the background, like the ambiance, but then you want it to be wider. So if it's going to be in the background, then it's got to be wider, or it's going to be, louder. So
yeah,
let's just see what we're going to do. And then if it was like, if I was working with this individual, then I'd probably send him 2 or 3 different options. But I'm going to do it by like kind of my ears to see what I like. So the first thing we're going to do is let's do an EQ and just see what sounds good. Okay. So I'm going to get a little bit sorry, I'm turning my volume down just a little bit. Okay, there we go. Let me know if this is too low, RTC, but if it's good, I'm good.
No, sounds good to me.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, first thing we're going to do, Pro Q3. If you don't have Pro Q3, that's cool, but if you do, great. Another option to Pro Q3, which is very similar to Pro Q3, is TDR Nova, I think or Nova by TDR. And it's a really good EQ that is free. If you guys could link it in the description, look it up really quickly. TDR Nova. It does almost every single thing Pro Q3 does. All right, cool.
Yeah, dude, unmute there.
Sorry.
You're still muted on that.
What's up?
You're still muted on there.
Oh, that's weird. Cool. So I think I found the frequencies I like. I like around 500 and I like around over 1,000. So somewhere in this quadrant, someone in this quadrant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a mids bump here around 5. I'm going to do it right on B4, which is 493 hertz, just arbitrarily. I think right around B, like that key I like. I don't know. And then I'm going to do the same, but using this other point here is on the side. And I'm looking for that, but I think it's here.
The ship on the wall, partner, ready.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff's happening, the beef is happening right around 1500, and I kind of want to bump that just a little bit. And what I'm going to do in this case, this can be a static EQ or it can be a dynamic EQ. So I'm going to bump statically 1 dB, so it's always 1 dB louder here in this point. And I'm also going to add dynamic of another dB, so it can go as high as 2 dB, if you will. So check this out. Cool. And I'm going to do the same thing on the side. And so what that does is this gives it a little bit more dynamic, and it's not just always louder in this one section, but it has some intelligent algorithm that chooses the spots where to make it louder and like going too crazy. Okay, cool. And then next up, I'm probably going to just, this is a personal taste thing, I'm going to cut frequencies above, let's give it 16,600. Okay. So as you can see, there's frequencies riding all the way up past 20,000, but I don't think, I don't like that in a mix. So, okay. Cool. And then let's see what we do in the low end.
The ship on the wall, partner, ready.
Cool. And then now let's see if we take off any of the sides. Oh, I messed this one up. So this one has to be in mid, and then the sides on the lows, I'm not sure that I will or not. Give me a sec. Nope.
The ship on the wall, partner, ready. Funk soul, funk soul, funk soul.
Okay, cool. So that's going to do it for EQing on this one. Just a broad strokes EQ, just kind of shaping it the way I like it. Let's just do it before and after real quick on the EQ.
The ship on the wall, partner, ready.
Before. After.
Funk soul, funk soul, funk soul.
Okay, cool. That sounds good. I'm going to drop Pro MB in here. I'm going to go to my setting. Which one was it? Tight, smooth bass, smooth highs. I'm going to leave it as is. I'm not going to tinker around with it too much. I know it's a good setting. And I'll go to my soft clipper. This is the paid version by Vin Audio, by the way. I can use either, but you know what? I won't cheat you guys. Let me just use the free one to show how I would use the free one. And then the paid one is like $29 or something. I did it to support them. I end up using the free one a lot more than the paid one. It's kind of funny, but it's just easy, right? It's like two knobs like this one and then how much you want to clip. So we're going to clip this to -3. Okie dokie. Yep.
The ship on the wall, partner, ready.
Okay, and then last but not least, we're going to do the limiter at the very end. So we've clipped the signal, we've kind of softened some of the harder edges, and then we'll go ahead and add some dBs back.
The ship on the wall, partner, ready.
Okay. I'm going to do one last thing, okay? I'm going to show you guys just a little bit of sauce here just for fun. Just having fun, guys. I'm going to throw a Wolf compressor before the free clip, and I'm going to just add just a little bit of compression, like 22% compression. It's just a tiny bit. And then the dry wet, I'm going to put to 88. And I'm going to put the release really low and the attack very high, very slow, and the release very fast. Okay. And I'm going to just everything else kind of off, if you will. Okay. And so here's what I'm looking for now. And I want to show you guys. So with the loudness meter, whoops, put it in the wrong channel. Sorry. So with the loudness meter, I'm going to be looking at how loud I am. So I still have like 2 dB to spare in my eyes, right? I want to be around -8 LUFS for my own taste, -8 to -9. So I'm going to go ahead and just bump here by 2 dB. Cool. And then the last thing is I'm just going to tinker around. I'm going to take some creative freedoms here and just add some effects to it, okay? So... Okay, cool. So what that did is this is an old analog compressor emulator. It added some lo-fi, like just kind of softness to it. And the wow is like kind of a flutter effect, if you will. And then the crunch is a little bit of, I guess, saturation. I don't know if saturation is what it's actually doing, but anyways. And so let's do it before and after really quickly. Before. Hey. Okay. And here comes the after.
Your boss boy. Is it that?
Right? So it gave it a lot more of an, so in a very digital sounding track, give it an analog feel. Just personal preference. That last step you don't have to do. All right, RTC, come on back.
Yeah, that sounded great. That's one of those tracks you want to hear in the car, bumping in the system, you know?
Right.
Just with the punchiness of it and the way the kick and the snare are really hitting on there.
Yeah, it's a crazy track. I love the track. It's a really fun track. I even kind of took some. Anytime I take some creative freedom like that, is because I like the track. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, I'm into it. I'm excited.
So
I want to do more stuff. Yeah, I'm having fun. Exactly. So,
No, yeah, it's another one of those where the subtleties of what you did make just a huge difference on that, and the different tools that everyone really has access to now with whatever DAW you have, even if in your standalone units, you have some sort of version of these plugins, even if you're coming straight out of the box,
And I appreciate you for putting the link in the description. I'll take the homework to link in our channel in the Beatcast Discord. I'll put all those links at the end, okay? I'll put them all in one place and I'll pin them. That way everyone can find these links for these free plugins that are amazing.
Awesome. And we also in the chat here, you guys are in the chat there at the pinned at the top of the chat here, but that's great for, the people watching the replays and all that. But not a sponsor yet, but, anything to help you guys out.
For sure. Cool. Want to check out this next one? Let's do it.
Yeah. Who we got up next here?
We have Little Treasure or Little Treasures.
Awesome. Yeah. He was part of our Friendly Fades.
Oh,
as
awesome.
Well, yeah.
All right. Let's take a listen.
Lord, I need to change my ways. What's your name? Put it in my book. You're another name. Get your name in my book. Please, another name in my book. I need to
Oh my God. I mean, RTC, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, you could totally. We had the little interview with him, when he was because he was on the show for the Friendly Fade, and now that he told us, I mean, he was an instrumentalist first, and you can totally hear it in those tracks. Even though that he does have samples in the tracks, you can hear the keys and everything, the little things that he's playing in there, those little kind of acidy type bass lines, that he's got going on. You can tell he's playing those. And yeah, it was fun. And also when the track first started, I was like, oh man, this sounds kind of thin. I don't know what's going on. And then all of a sudden the bass came in. I was like, okay, there it is. There's just the buildup. So I was actually looking forward to it staying thin, so I can ask you, what would you do with this? But no, it's I mean, right off the bat, it's a really good mix too. So this is another one like Al's, where out the box it just sounds really good.
Yeah, it's sick. It's sick. I love it. All right, well let's dig into it. So a couple of thoughts that come to mind. Everything's loud, and so there's just like an overwhelming amount of sound in some portions of it. And so I'm gonna focus on some of the louder parts, because if you get the louder parts right in your mixes and masters, then the rest of the track will inherently sound really good, or usually. So let's just hear this loud part. Right. So, all right. So I'm going to start with loudness, by the way, is pretty good. I saw he's like around -9 dB or not, like -9 lufs. So that's great. I'm going to do something that is harshness, like taming. I think there's a lot going on. And so, well, all right. I'm going to actually throw in a Pro MB setting that I use when I want to just kind of chill a track out just a little bit when there's a lot going on. Let's see. Bus lows. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. So it's all this stuff, but I'm going to take everything out except for... No, this wasn't it. I'm so sorry, guys. Let's add a vocal chain. Yeah. So I'll explain more in just a sec. Let me just play you guys the difference just so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. So Pro Q, Pro MB. Okay. So Pro MB, this is the multi-band compressor, which means that it can compress different bands. I have a scoop here in the high mids, and then compression a little bit in the low mids, and then some compression, but kind of bump on the highs. When it gets too crazy, I'll compress it a little bit. But anyways, let me play you the before and the after of this. So this is before. After. Okay, so I may just not compress it as much, and just kind of chill out on the scoop here just a little bit. But I think it did a lot of just like controlling those mids. Because before I did that, check out the Span, another free tool. It's essentially an analyzer for your spectrum analyzer. This region here is what your ears love to listen to and hate to listen to. If you get this region right, man, your tracks will be amazing. If you have fingers going on like that really, really high, it's going to accumulate a lot of resonance, and then your ears fatigue. And it's one of those, like when you play something in the car and you kind of turn it down a little bit and you're like, oh, my ears kind of hurt after listening to your own track. That happens to me a lot. And it's usually in that region. That's the problem. So instead of just scooping it out with an EQ and then your track will sound thin, you want to use a multiband compressor. Yeah, so I may just widen this band just a little bit more. So maybe I'll just put it to 900, and then this band I'll do to 5,000. Yeah, and so what it did now is those fingers went down. Yeah, compared to before. You can use this trick, by the way, if you have Pro MB. If not, I would go buy it. If you use a DAW, I would use this trick for any tracks, like any samples that have harshness. Just add it to the sample. Don't add it to the whole track. Don't add it to the drums. Add it just to the sample, and you'll see the drums will shine through because the sample's no longer boxy and taking over. So I did that Pro MB trick. I mean, that took care of a lot of what I would want to do, but I'm just going to do one more thing. I'm going to put a Pro Q3 right before the Pro MB, and I am going to slice off just the very lows, like below 22, and let's see. Okay, cool. So that sounds better to me. And then now let's go back to, oh, sorry, I messed this up. So in this chain, I also have EQ, or I'm sorry, I have Valhalla Supermassive. Go get it for free while it's still free. It's been free for a long time, but you never know when they'll take it out down. This is a great EQ, not EQ, I'm so sorry, reverb. Great, like amazing. Like don't go pay for a reverb, get this one for free. Okay, cool. So what I did is I put a little bit of glue compression after that. This is just one of these things that I have already figured out, right? So Pro Q3 before, then I do Pro MB. So Pro Q3, just taking off the lows a little bit, right? Let me just show you guys. So taking off the lows and scooping off some of the mids, which I shouldn't take out so much here. 1.1. Okay, cool. That resonant frequency is around 200. Pro MB is the middle band is compressing a lot because of those resonant frequencies. So if you mess around a lot with samples, you want to use this. And then Valhalla, just putting a little reverb. Look, 11%, tiny bit. In fact, I'm gonna be even 7%. Cool. And then glue compression at the end to just kind of make sure it all gels together. And then let's see where we're at with loudness. Cool. So we lost some loudness naturally. And then what we'll do is this one I'm going to have a lot of fun with really quickly because I do want to add a little bit of that lo-fi aesthetic to this one. Again, just having fun with it. You don't have to do that. But yeah, I'm going to add just no compression on here. And I am going to, let's see. So really slow release. What slow attack? What does the slow attack do in a compressor? Well, the peaks, it lets the peak go by, and then after the peak goes by for a kick or a snare, then it'll compress the rest. And so you want to maintain those kicks and snares. And then a fast release. So just kind of compress it real quick and let's go. Okay, so I'm going to add. Cool. So that's doing what I'd like it to do. And then last one is just a limiter. I don't think I need a soft clipper. I already have so many compressors in the way. I think it's handled, if you know what I mean. It doesn't seem like I need any. Okay, so let's talk just for a second. I'll bring you back in, RTC. Let's talk real quick at what I'm looking at here at the end. I don't think I've ever talked about this before. So what I'm looking at here at the very end of the track is I'm going to look at whatever compressor or limiter you use, see how much you're slicing off. So here you're going to see I want to slice up between 1 to 2 dB. So meaning it's it's limiting 1 to 2 dB. You don't want to limit more than that. So okay. So all right, real quick, you lead meter. So I brought it back to where I found it, right? I found this track around 9 and 9.5 LUFS, and I brought it back to the same. Let's see before and after, and I haven't done a comparison just yet, so let's see. All right, so let's loop that real quick. Before. Okay, so I'm not proud of one thing of what I did. So I did control those transients, but I think I took off a little too much, personally speaking. So let's just see. Okay, so now I got it where I want it. So you'll notice when I switch back to the track, I'm going to go back and forth real quick, and then you'll hear a difference of it sounds a little boxy compared to the new one. The new one has a little more air, so check it out. So it's just kind of like smoothed it out a little bit. There's parts I was afraid I had taken too much off, so I did give it a little bit more juice back. But now we got it just right where the before I think sounds a little boxy now in comparison, and the after sounds good. So let's just let's hear it real quick, and then RTC, I'll ask you to come back. Okay, so a good point to see is, check it out. So that part is really loud, right? Like this time, hearing it again is kind of hurting my ears just a little. All right. So if I RTC, come on back.
Yeah, man, that one was like night and day. What you did with it coming in, doing the AB on there. Yeah, that was great. And I think the bass line that I love so much in that is what was eating up a lot of that mix right there too.
Right.
Yeah, you can really see that in there.
Yeah, I guarantee you his track's really fun. Like sometimes it is fun to hear like a rough track. Like it's fun, right? Like just hearing something that's a little messy. His wasn't messy, no disrespect, but I'm saying like sometimes it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm telling you, and I'm going to export this track and send it to him. I'm going to export all these tracks for these guys and send them to him. And I'm sure putting this into the car, is going to sound so much smoother. I'm so sure of it. It's going to sound way smoother.
And it will sound really good on Spotify, where you could be on the Beatcast Spotify playlist. Sam's getting you all set up for that. If you can find this on our Spotify, just search the Beatcast Radio on Spotify and you'll find it there. See, learning from the best, man. Al taught me well with those segues.
I just a quick side note. I hate mixing other people's tracks. I don't hate it, but I'm not a big fan. I like mastering. I like this stuff, but I don't like mixing as much. Mixing is very tedious, and it's just it's very creative too. Like, so it's really up to the artist to see how you mix something. And I would love to have mixed that track. It's just got so many components that I would want to mute certain things and bring some things and echoes, and oh my god, it's so much fun.
I love mixing, man. That's one of the things I miss working with MCs and singers, is especially with singers, is the mixing portion. Just play with the vocals and doing so much. I had the opportunity to work with some really good people back in the day, and they would just let me do whatever I wanted to, and be able to in the studio with them. And actually I was recording them too, so I got them to do all the takes that I needed. And it's mixing is fun, man. Like, I love doing that, and especially even when making beats, I spend a lot of time mixing. Let me ask, when you're working on a song, are you mixing as you go along, or when you're done, are you exporting the tracks and going and mixing them down in Ableton, or maybe you're already making them in Ableton, depending on what you're using to make your beats?
That's a great question. Most of the time, my process is very, I would say, simple, believe it or not. My tracks are like bass, sample, drums. And so I do like a little tweak on volumes just to make sure, okay, cool, everything sounds good. But that's like far from final. And then, but what happens is I already have I wouldn't say a final specific way, because I'm constantly evolving that. But like right now, I have a very specific way that I'm getting the sound I'm getting right now, and it's very consistent. And so as you see, I make stuff on mainly Ableton. I can tell you Ableton. I can tell you when I make stuff on the SP. So on Ableton, I have these racks, which are essentially a whole bunch of VSTs in a row. That you rack together. That's what they're called. So for example, I'm gonna just add a track here. So let's just say this was my bass track. I'm gonna put it in blue. I'm not going to play any audio, but if this was my bass track, I would then add, I have a couple lows that I'd like to use. So there's one that I kind of tweaked from Kenny Beats. So Kenny Beats gave this on stream or something. I heard it and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And it's like, okay, it's an EQ, and then it's a compressor, and then blah, blah, blah. And so I use these racks and just kind of make it sound, mixing wise, I get it to sound a certain point. It is a little bit as I go, but yeah, I have this stuff almost like copy paste now at this point.
Yeah. I use my main machine is Machine, and I also use Ableton, especially for mixing and doing things. And I absolutely love the drum racks, and that's absolutely what I hate about Machine, is that you can't save channel strip settings, your go-to stuff. And it's so nice in Ableton just to be able to pull in that rack, and it's got everything you need for each one. I do the same thing, the vocal for when I was working with vocalists, I'd have their rack that I would use for their ad libs, their rack I would use for their main vocal. And that's why I love Ableton for. But as far as making beats though, I love Machine, but there's a lot of stuff I wish it could do, and I'm surprised it doesn't do. And that's one of them, being able to save rack settings like that.
Yeah. I'm getting into I'm going back towards the analog gear, or towards the gear again. I do have my Machine, but I don't use it as much. And I'll be honest, one thing that keeps me from going back to Machine full time, I was like thinking about it the other day, is like, well, if I go back to Machine, right, I'm still looking at a screen part of the time. There's still a DAW component to it. And I was like, I kind of want to challenge myself just to listen to the stuff. So I've made a couple beats lately on the SP, and my mixing in the SP is different because I am in that I am mixing as I go because you're forced to, because if not, things are in the way. So you have to EQ stuff and lower stuff so you can hear the other stuff. It's really hard if you don't. So I'm kind of relearning making beats on the SP. But
I've got to learn the SP. I've had it and I can't do much with it, man. It's I've used so many machines and it's the one that just perplexes me. I just can't get it to do what I want. And one of these days I'll figure it out.
Oh man. Well, I'm going to post my Beatcast submission. I actually made a beat today, and I'm playing it in the SP, and you're going to not the whole, like, I'm not finger drumming, but I'm kind of playing the track and I'm doing a few effects or whatever, copying all the lo-fi specialists out there. So check it out. Whenever I post it, you'll see and check it out.
Nice. We'll have to have we need to have a 404 workshop here soon where you guys who know what you're doing can talk about it.
I don't. I'm willing to learn. Yeah, I don't. But.
Yeah.
Alrighty, cool. So let's go with this next one. Let's play the beat. Unmute. Let's go.
Multi-dimensional.
Sorry, let me mention who put this up. I apologize. So this is by Jay Pena in the Discord, and he wrote, because he gave a little bit of an explanation. Let me pull him up here. He wrote that this is a beat from last summer. He never got to finish. He extracted the stems from his OG beat and redid the bass and drums. For the bass, he layered 3 different basses, so keep an ear out for that. The bass from the sample, a sub, and a contact bass. Attaboy, Jay Pena. I love it. On top for the mid and higher frequencies. And the drums he had before were chopped up drums from the original song. He hopes we all enjoy. So let's check it out.
Multi-dimensional. I'm a lazy man, unexpected sound. Refugee off. Yes.
Love that kick.
Multi-dimensional. Queen. Don't want this. Ooh, baby, you're in love with me.
All right. I think a lot of the beat is the same, so.
Don't want this.
Yeah. No offense, Jay Pena. I just want to keep it moving, and this is a pretty long beat. It's I don't know, like 4-minute beat. So I want to give you the feedback. So let's get right to it. First of all, really groovy beat, right, RTC?
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
It's crazy beat. Jay Pena is a very talented young musician out of the Northeast. I don't know if he's in New York proper, but I know in that area. Really talented. I've actually collabed with him, and I made one of my favorite tracks ever is a Jay Pena produced beats that we made 3 beats into one. It's called Beat Medley. 3 beats like back to back. It's really good. Anyway, so I know Jay Pena well, really talented. That kick is amazing. Just listen to that underground kick.
Multi-dimensional. I'm a lazy man, unexpected sound. Refugee off.
And then the other thing you'll notice with his drums specifically, he's really good about adding or placing the snare in a space. It looks like it's in a specific space, like in the back of the room, kind of. Just listen for it.
Dimensional. I'm a lazy man, unexpected sound. Refugee off. Yes.
Yeah, it's very, very tastefully done, Jay Pena. So let's get some loudness out of this thing. I want to almost put let's go through the usual, right? EQ, compressor, because I think it needs a little compression. Let's go first with the EQ. So EQ8, just using the Ableton EQ to keep it simple.
Dimensional. I'm a lazy man, unexpected sound. Refugee off. Yes.
Okay, so just shaving some of the lows. Let's see. Oh, let's just do this in mid side. On the side,
Dimensional, my lazy man, unexpected sound, FPGO.
okay, cool. Now let's go look for some of those frequencies that we like on the sides.
Dimensional, my lazy man, unexpected sound, FPGO.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna be right around 1280. I'm bumping the high mids, and then for the stereo sound right on the sides, and then we're gonna bump.
Dimensional, my lazy man, unexpected sound, FPGO.
Somewhere around there, like 500, 500 to 600. Cool. So this is sounding good. This is sounding good. We're going to cap the sound here at 14,400 for me. 14,400. Cool. So I go through this every time, guys. I mean, you don't have to. It's just kind of the knacks of how I know to shape sound with my ears, right? There's so many different ways that you could do it. So I implore you to always come up with your style of how to do it, but then be consistent so you know what works. So for me, these high passes and low passes really work. And so that's why I employ them. Sometimes, I've learned that I was wrong, so I change it, but I think in this case, we'll get something out of it. All right, so now let's go with some compression. I'm going to throw the glue compressor on here. I'm going to do a quick release, a fast, a slow attack, a quick release, a very low ratio of 2-to-1. We're going to bring this threshold back until this needle says around 4 to 5.
Dimensional, my lazy man, unexpected sound, FPGO.
Okay, so we'll do negative 13.
My lazy man, unexpected.
Sweet. All right, and you guessed it, we're going to add a clipper, the free clip. All right, and we'll put it in probably quintic, which is just like a soft or a pretty quick curve, or cubic. Oh, by the way, so this is what I'm looking at for here. Sorry, I skipped a step. I need to drive the signal just a little bit. It's a little quiet, so I'm going to give some makeup on the glue compressor. Oh, you know what I just noticed? That the glue, I forgot that the glue compressor has a clipper on it. So I know the glue compressor setting is 0.5 dB, negative 0.5 dB. So it's clipping negative 0.5 dB, is shaving anything that is louder than negative 0.5 dB. Cool. We're all right. I'm hearing a little tiny distortion, but that's okay. It sounds all right-ish. And we'll just put the Pro L, and let's see how loud we can get this track, and then we'll do a before and after. So we're going to go really quickly to mixing and save. So as you can see, I go through these settings every day. I've done it already 5 times in this episode. Okay. So if you notice, I only did 3 things to master this track. I did EQ, I did a compressor, like just to glue things together, with, again, slow attack, fast release. I even write it down for myself. Oh, Why am I glitchy? Sorry, guys. And then I did a limiter. So those are three main things you want to be able to use really well as and no matter what DAW you use: EQ, compressor, limiter. The soft clipper is obviously a bonus, and you guys can get savvy with it. But just for those of you guys out there that say, I don't know how to master, man, just apply a few of these tips using those three tools. I wouldn't get too crazy. I wouldn't add in much else if you don't know how to use those tools. All right, let's see what loudness we got out of it.
Multi-dimensional. I'm a lazy man, unexpected sound. FPGO. Oh,
So let's do it before and after real quick. Before.
multi-dimensional. I'm a lazy man, unexpected sound. FPGO.
Sorry, I'm going to loop a section so that way we don't have to keep stopping and going. So let me just loop this section. This is before. Now this is after. Cool. So a very interesting thing happened with this master. Whoa, what happened? Very interesting thing happened here with this master, which is that the voice stayed the same. It didn't get louder, but the other components, we were able to make them louder, which is, in my opinion, good. Hear the before and after real quick and just listen for the voice and see if I made it too much louder or if everything else came up. All right. So RTC, come on back, man. Let me know how I did and talk to me.
Man, like wasn't really too much you had to do on there. Even with it kind of scared me when you said he was used the three different basses on there. I was like, oh man, that's gonna be tough. But no, it sounded great. I like what he did there. He mixed I guess this upright bass sample with more of a synthetic sounding sound. Synthetics, or I don't know if he played it or what it was, but no, all three of those basses sounded great together. Yeah, it's. Wasn't too much, but you did bring it together where it sounded a little less in the back. It was more, everything was just a little bit more forward. And I like what you said about the snare too earlier. It's just that reverb on there gives it that space, that certain spot just for the snare, and that sounded great.
My challenge to everyone, if you want to take this challenge on as practice, if you don't use reverb too often, is go download any of the Valhalla reverbs for free and play around with the reverb settings and add it to your snare for the next 10 tracks you make, or 5 tracks. Let's do 5 tracks. And maybe add just 1%, sometimes add 10%, sometimes add 50%. And you'll see a big difference in your tracks when you add those little ear candies to snares and other components. But I think snare is a good starting place. If you can place the snare somewhere in a room, you're in a good spot.
Yeah, and like the one person that did a really good job using those reverbs, that you would know is Havoc, like in the early Mobb Deep stuff.
Yes.
Just think about those. Imagine if there was no reverb on those snares that he was doing, and I believe he was using the ASR 10 for all of those, which has the same reverb in the ASR X, and that's a distinct reverb. But imagine if it was just a dry snare, those tracks wouldn't be the same. So, just having the little bit, he even used a little bit on the hi-hats, but like he would do a little bit more on the snares, and it just brought those tracks to life. I mean, those tracks would be classic anyways, but those that made a huge difference on those.
That is so true. I hadn't thought of his tracks, but that is so true. Also think of all those what's his name? I'm Kanye, right? Like the Good Morning.
Yeah.
Good morning. Dun-dun-dun, and you have like this snare just in the, oh my God, it's like that snare with the reverb is everything. He shaped the sound. Yeah.
I don't think people understand how versatile reverb is because there's so many different reverbs out there and they all sound different. Like what Havoc was using was like a plate reverb that had more of a darker sound, you know, but the spring reverbs have a different sound too, you know, and there's just so many different reverbs that do so many different things. Just have fun with it, but don't go too crazy, especially one of the things I found early on, if it sometimes with limiting and compressing could bring out that reverb a little too much. So just be careful with it. You know, do your car mixes, listen there. But yeah, that's a good test for everyone. You know, to have them make 5 beats. Use the reverb if you're not using reverb. You know, it comes with everything. Pretty much every beat machine has a reverb on it. You know, every DAW has a free reverb on it. Use it. And yeah, Jay Pena said the reverb on the snare and Give Me Yours, the Pete Rock. Yeah, Pete Rock does amazing job with the reverbs, or I don't know if he put it on there or if their mix engineers were putting them on there, but they did a great job with those.
Yeah, and I got to plug Supermassive again by Valhalla. So you always hear Valhalla with their reverbs, and Supermassive is free. They actually have 3 free emulators. I hate to say this, but I'll probably never buy one of their plugins because these things are free. They have Valhalla Frequency Echo, which is a great delay. They have Supermassive, which literally has so many presets. Like they have this preset here for those of you guys who want to geek out. Go to late 2021 and go to Cassiopeia Verb. If you like Japanese old school 80s sound, that's the 80s sound. Cassiopeia. It's a group from the 80s in Japan. I don't know. I can geek out. Oh, and then they have Space Modulator, which is like a crazy modulator that makes anything sound insane. Here, I'll give you a little taste for it so you can hear it on his track really quickly. It's going to sound crazy, but let's just see it. Let's start with a 0 mix and let's see it. You can get weird with it. Anyways, you guys get the point. This stuff is free, very easy to mess around. Most of the time, I don't mess around, by the way. You guys may think, oh, man, he's a geek. He knows everything. I don't. What I do is I go into these presets and I only mess with the mix. Like, I'm like, let me just mess with the mix percentage. When I know a preset really well, I'll start messing around with the preset. But other than that, it's just a matter of how much you mix in.
Mm-hmm. So. Exactly. It's I come from the old school recording engineer days where, you know, we were putting reverbs and modulation stuff on. They were going on auxiliary tracks. So, you know, we were using the auxiliary as a mix. So it took me a long time. It probably wasn't until the last 5 years where I started putting them in line on the same track and using the mix that way. But but yeah, there's
worth mentioning, I don't put it in the same track, actually. So you're right. You're absolutely right.
So you use, okay, yeah. No, it's funny because when I started using Machine, I put it within the same track now, which is something that I would never do before. but yeah, the way to do it, if you go to school for this, they'll tell you, you know, put it on the auxiliary track. Right. And that's what you want to do and use the send. And that's when you could have the mix 100% and then, you know, use the sends.
That's the way I do it with the sends down here. One thing that's very powerful also is compression on drums, like parallel compression drums. Everyone's heard it a million times, I'm sure, on YouTube, Instagram, everywhere. But if you're not doing it or have never done it, then go try it and you'll see how powerful it can be. And then also on vocals, it can be really good too. So
yeah, and using the auxiliary tracks was from back in the day where we didn't have much memory and much CPU power. We couldn't have, 5 reverbs going at the same time, 5 tracks. We had to have everything on one and send it all to one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but I will say one thing though. I mess around with that a lot. A lot of the, I mean, I don't know if you've complimented me before in some of the tracks I've showed you, and but I'll say this. I mean, and I don't think I'm like a professional by any means, but in terms of like mixing some of my tracks, some people ask me, how did you get that? Like a lot of times I'll choose two sounds that I want them to be kind of glued together, and I'll send them to the same return. You see what I mean? And then they'll kind of like, if I want a reverb on the snare and also on another component, I'll send the two to the same return track. So that way they both kind of bust together in the reverb, and now they sound like more glued together, if that makes sense.
yeah, kind of living in the same space because they're using the same stuff. I mean,
Right.
You could use the same, if you use the same compression, run it through all the same stuff. It's just, and it's
Right.
easier to keep track of that way, so you don't have 5 different things going on. Have your own drum bus that has everything on it and things on all that. So
Yep.
yeah, so we're
All
getting
right.
nerdy here.
I think we're in the last track. It's Owl Nimbus. Owl Nimbus. So this is just the mix. It's unmastered, so this will be fun. I'll do a little quick master on it. I was making this one for Rapper, so you'll notice that the EQ will change at the 30-second mark. That's okay. This was also exported at -7 dB, so there should be plenty of headroom. I appreciate that, Owl Nimbus. Also, cut out the hertz after 12.5K. My main goal is to have the bass, but enough where it is gritty, full, but not muddy. Cool. He said the more gritty, the better. So I'm all for it, man. Let's listen to it, and then we'll master it in a gritty way. Cool. I'm gonna master this one in a little bit more old school way. How about that?
Sounds good, man. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Cool. First of all, love the track so far. Drums are just going off. I love it. And also, I like the old school vibe to it. It's all going to be about compression with this track, and mid-side EQ. So I said I would do old school, so I'm going to try to use kind of old school look approach to this track. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add to the track. I'm going to add an EQ, and it's going to be a 3-band EQ. It's not going to be like a fancy EQ that I can do a bunch of things with, okay? And so what will happen, EQ3, right, is I have 3 bands. My 3 bands will be split from 0 to 250 hertz, from 250 to 2500, and from 2500 up. And I'm just going to literally just turn those knobs around just to see what sounds good to me. Okay, so the first thing I did is I'm looking for kind of some of the high mids, and I'm just going to shave a little bit the high mids. I only took a dB, 1.1 dB, and I added 1.1 to the high end. So you hear the bass more, but I didn't bump the bass. Cool. Okay, so 3-band EQ. So again, no fancy EQ stuff here. I'm gonna then throw on a compressor. You know what? For this one, we're gonna use the glue compressor, which is an emulator of an old glue compressor. Slow attack, fast release. Let's start with a 4-to-1 ratio. Okay, cool. So far we're good. And then I'm going to put a limiter, but I'm going to put the basic limiter on. Like, I'm not going to even get fancy with the limiter that Ableton has. I'm going to put a limiter here. Okay. And what I want to see, I'm going to leave a -0.5 ceiling on this limiter here. Okay, so it's been my ceiling for all the limiters that we've done. And I want to see how much is the gain reduction. Like, how much is it having to squish it? Okay, now I'm going to reserve the right, because this is old school, to also put a saturator, because I think it will give us a lot for our buck. So let's just see here in the saturators, what are our choices. So we can warm up the highs, warm up the lows, a bit warmer. Let's see about warming up those highs. Cool. So I'm still not getting the loudness I want. So let's just see what we got to do to get that loudness. We're almost there. Okay. So let's just let's think about this glue compressor real quick, because I'm not satisfied with my glue compressor settings. So let's actually follow my own advice. So EQ3, we'll go to EQ3, and is there anything here I could do? Less is more mid. Let's try this less is more mid and see what is no. Okay. Oh, that sounds better, I think. Okay, whatever. One more thing. Glue compressor. I'm not too happy with my settings for this one, and then we'll go, because I'm almost done. So glue compressor. There's a couple of settings here. Catch peaks. I don't think we need to catch peaks that much. So let's see. I like that. Okay. All right. I like that. Again, this is not a modern sounding track. I I'm doing more of the old school sound. That's what Al Nimbus is kind of going for in this one case. I'm sure if I was working with him, we'd make it 10 times better because he'd give me his feedback. But here, let's see. Low latency, push, reduce. Nah. Okay, cool. 6 minutes. And then the last one is the warm up the highs. I think we can make it a little bit better. So saturator. I think a bit warmer might be better. So let's hear it. Okay, cool. So we got it. So this is an old school sounding track. I love it. Like a vintage vibe going on. Yeah, vintage vibe. Let's go. Let's hear it. And then RTC, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Before, after. Dang. Sounds crazy. Give me a sec. I'm sorry. Now I made it too loud. I found how to make it loud. My bad, guys. Give me a sec. Hey. No, I don't like whatever I just did. I don't like. There. So that's the master I would go for, guys. Let me just play it for you, RTC, real quick. I'd love to get your feedback. Come on back.
Yeah, man, you just added that punch that it needed, like it was missing. And no disrespect, but before it was kind of flat, a little dead. Like I said, no disrespect, but it needed that magic there that you put on there just to bring it to life even more, because it was dope. It's a hell of a dope track, and it just needed that. And that shit knocks out you, and I could especially hear it in that bass line. That was just driving bass line. It really made that a lot more pronounced. Love what you did with that one. And Al Nimbus, amazing track, man.
For tonight's tracks, this is the one I'm the most proud of, and I'll tell you why. I love all the other tracks. I love what we did with them. Little Treasures track is awesome. I'm proud of myself for that one as well for a few reasons. But this one was cool because I limited myself with working with a little bit more old school type of vintage stuff, right? Like not a lot of knobs, not a lot of automation. You know what I mean? You know, but you saw that it wasn't a straight line. It wasn't like I added this, it sounded better. I added that, it sounded better. Until the very last minute, I was like getting all the different modules here, which was a saturator, which is old school mastering. It's kind of like saturator, EQ, compressor, and limiter. And they were all kind of working together. Like I squeeze here a little bit, and then it made me do something else somewhere else. I don't know if you noticed that there at the end.
Yeah, it's almost like if you take one of those out of the equation, it wouldn't work. It's like you needed all those pieces to get where you got.
Yeah. Yeah, because there was a moment where the compressor was doing the right thing before I added the saturator. It was doing the right thing, but it was like, it wasn't giving you the oomph, but it was still really bottom heavy.
Yeah.
And then when I added the saturator, you could hear the bass really come out.
A lot more pronounced.
Yeah. So that was a fun track, like a little challenge there for the last 10 minutes to try to get it to sound right. But it's a great track. It's old school sound, like real gritty. It's just awesome.
Al Nimbus, good job, man. And those drums, like Messi said, man, those drums were amazing too.
Yeah, man. So let me stop sharing my screen if you'd like to maybe just chat for a little bit before we take off. But yeah, any thoughts or anything I can do for the community additional, let me know. I'm always open, including giving you guys those the links to free plugins and whatnot. I've also been considering, I'm not trying to make a big business out of it, but I've been considering like how I could get to people my presets, and so the only exchange I'd ever want from people is I can't say ever, but for now is really like their email, or info, just in the sense of I'd love to one day share my music with you guys. So we'll work something out. I'll talk to you RTC after, and we'll see what we can offer the folks that are subscribers to the Beatcast. And
remember, for you guys,
Patreon.
you guys are out there. I mean, if you got a whole album, the whole project you're working on, and you want Sam to work on it, I mean, that's what he does. I mean, you can just have the master do it for you.
Man, that's the second time somebody says that, calls me that this week, and I shy away because I feel like I don't know nearly enough. But thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, so definitely reach out to Sam. I mean, I'm sure, as you hear, I mean, he'd be worth every penny for what he'd be able to do for your album or your project, just to give it what it needs. If you're stuck, and hopefully, I mean, I know, I'm not saying hopefully, I know lots of people, lots of you guys listening, and everyone watching the replay, you're going to learn a lot from this. It's funny to think, for beat makers, it's like you don't really think there's much creativity involved in the whole mixing and mastering process, but there is. It's like you can have fun with it. It's not a tedious thing. It's something you can have fun with, especially hearing the results that you get out of it. I mean, it's just a whole other part, and put this stuff to use. Do the tricks he's saying. He's giving you challenges. Use reverb if you've never used reverb before. Put some reverb on your snare and your hi-hats for your next 5 tracks. Do it. And
or don't use drums, additional drums, just the drums from the track, from the sample, and see what you can do with it. Because there's ways of extracting those drums, not extracting like the stems, but bringing the drums out in a hard way. But it's through the mixing. Yeah.
It's not just about the beat, guys. It's about the mix too. Challenge yourself. Learn something new. Instead of spending time, on which kick or snare you're going to use, find one that sounds close, and then make mix it and make it work.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the problem, just to give one final gem of info that I've kind of figured out after thousands of hours of doing in trial and error and stuff. It's so when things are really low, you like in volume, you can't tell what the errors are. You can't tell that the kick isn't hitting at the right place. You can't tell that the snare is not the right snare. It all sounds good. You know, you're like, oh, great. When you add compression and really make that sound come out, it's almost like, you know, using a bad spice, you know, and then when you bake something, if it's a bad spice, it'll come out really bad, and then you'll taste it, you'll feel it. Yeah. Same thing with music. You got to really choose wisely and kind of mix and whatnot, because if not, you'll be like, I've had people tell me these drums are so hard. I'm like, you want to hear real hard drums? Here's a track. Yeah, you know. And it's because they never go through the process of seeing the whole thing baked through, if that makes sense. So yeah. All right.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, I mean, thanks again, man. I mean, this was another great week, and then, you know, we'll be back here in a couple more weeks. Next week, we don't forget, you know, because we have our standard Beatcast show, you know, where we listen to your submissions, and you have just a few more hours to submit your beat for this week. And Al, he picked the sample this go around, and he did an amazing job. I think I'm just gonna let him do it every week now, because I absolutely love the sample he picked. Yeah, and Impression is going to be on the show on the 23rd. He's going to be on the next show, and Impression's amazing. If you don't already follow him on Instagram, go catch him on Instagram. Does great videos. He's got a lot of awesome reels. He's going to be a fun guest, and yeah, get your beats. If you haven't done it already, make sure to upload them don't forget to upload them as well at thebeatcast.com. Submit them there, and then also put them on your Instagram so we can watch them there. And the next Critical Listening is going to be on April 30th with you, Mr. Sam Drumlo.
Yes, sir. Let's get it.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for watching us. Thank you, Sam, for dropping your knowledge again. And yeah, man, any final words from you?
No, man, just have fun and get those projects out, man. Even if the mix sucks, just get the mixes out there. I go through the same thing. Just get them out there.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, everyone, Beat Ox, have a great week, and we'll see you all next